Few coincidences abound. I'm sure that you all know what I'm talking about. This fellow gets around. Well, I'm here to talk about my dad tonight. His name was Woodring, Horace Lynn Woodring, formerly. He was born on September 30, 1926, on a dairy farm in Boxville. And Boxville is a little town that right now it's occupied by a place called Bud's Corner, which you all probably know. But their farm was part of the land that was taken by the government to form Camp Breckenridge, never to be returned. So they were among many farmers that lost their land that way and their minerals. But anyway, he had an amazing life as a youngster. He worked hard, and instead of water, he went by the spring house and drank milk, which made him extremely strong. He and his 4 brothers were all extremely strong. I don't think his brother Curtis ever was defeated in an arm wrestling contest that I know of. And we just lost him last year. So I won't bore you with all the details about Dad right now. What I think would be more interesting than me talking about Dad would be him telling the story from his own mouth about his experiences with General Patton, because he tells it quite well. I've got 2 programs, 2 like 20-something minute programs, and then in between we can talk, or after we can talk, and if anybody has something they want to ask during the program, we'll just hit the pause button, so please feel free. I'm afraid we had to go to Plan B. Plan A was there. Plan B is here. But I think Plan B will serve because I don't think Plan A has volume sufficient for the room.
Totally morning, without any more at this point, I'd like to just turn it over to Woody and you.
I forgot to mention, this is a talk that an interview that Dad gave in Briny Breezes, which some of you probably have been there to his place in Briny Breezes. They used to have a place in South Florida, and this community had their own little TV station. So that's what this is, an interview with the folks at Briny Breezes.
Tell us about the accident, would you please?
All right, I can tell you about the accident if that's what we want to talk about first. It was on a Sunday morning when we were going hunting, pheasant hunting. General Patton was scheduled to leave the next day to go back to the States. We had already put all his belongings on the plane. The crew was to follow on the 18th back to the States. But he went as one last hunting trip. It was a last-minute plan. The hunting area was between Augsburg and Heidelberg. So I was told early that morning we were going hunting. So we get up and get in the car. And we had a hunting advisor in a Jeep that went in front of us. So he told him to meet us at the checkpoint. We were going to check out a castle on the way that morning, which we did. It was quite cold. It was snow up on the hill where this old castle was. And General Patton's boots wet. We come back to the car, he gets in the front seat with me, and we continue on.
Normally you would have ridden in the back.
Normally you'd be in the back, yes, always in the back. We stopped at the checkpoint. Sergeant Spruce was waiting for us there. The hunting dog's about to freeze in the back of the Jeep, so he asked if he could let the dog ride in the car with us. So it wasn't General Patton's personal dog, it was his hunting dog that I assumed belonged to Sergeant Spruce. So they were to proceed on M38 into Manhattan. We come up to a railroad crossing. There was a train crossing. The Sergeant Spruce got by the train, but we didn't, so we had to stop. When the train passes, the only thing I see is one vehicle sitting down the road facing me. It was an Army 6x truck. I take off, and the truck takes off. And approximately a quarter of a mile up the road, he makes a severe left turn right into my car. And at this point, it's a pretty nasty crash. I look behind me in the back seat, and I see General Patton laying across General Gay, which was his chief staff under him. He had been scalped from here up. I can see that, yes. He hit the partition between the front and the back seat on the limousine. It comes down when the window rolls up into And I immediately opened the door, opened the back door, but then the gentleman was bleeding severely. And I have a picture here of me in the car right after the accident. You probably won't be able to see it very well, but that's me in the car shortly after the accident. You can't see my jacket.
You on this side.
This is me, right? You can see the blood all over my jacket. Boy, I raised the general up so General Gay could get out from under him. Now, he's not unconscious, he's talking. He's saying, what happened? What did that crazy guy do? Well, they were both looking right at the accident. They both saw exactly what happened. So I was never questioned on whose fault or what. So then, after that, the first vehicle on the scene was an Army ambulance by accident. The sergeant just passing by. He stops, and I tell him immediately that General Patton's in the car, he's severely hurt. So he gets in the car to stop the lady. The guys in the truck were, whether it was Sunday morning hangover or what, but they were quite resolute of the fact that it hit General Patton. They were excited, couldn't believe it hit General Patton. But anyway, then people began to...
They were drunk.
It was a bird colonel come along, it was a doctor. We loaded him into the Army ambulance, and he left from there and went to Heidelberg, and where he died.
You recognize he was paralyzed at this time?
Yes, he knew he was totally paralyzed. He had a broken neck and a complete separation of the spinal cord. He had no chance of living any length of time.
Was the general in the back with him? Was he hurt?
Not hurt at all.
You weren't hurt?
We were not hurt at all. Seatbelt would saved his life. No question.
Can you remember just before the impact, you saw it coming? I think you already related.
Didn't get a very good view of it because it happened so quick.
But it did happen that quick. You couldn't, you had no premonition.
No reaction time. He just turned right into it.
But what? What'd you think?
I thought it was a hell of a mess.
Did anybody say anything?
No.
And then when the crash came, was there any sound uttered from anybody, any passenger?
No, except that a few remarks between the two of them.
Yeah.
Naturally, we're trying to, General Gay asked me to please help General. So I got him on the neck, on the back, and raised him up. General Gay crawled out from under him, and then everything happened from there pretty rapidly. He lived from, that was the 9th of December, he, I believe, died on the 21st. The funeral was on Christmas Eve.
9th of December, the 21st he died. Was his wife, remember something about her coming to the hospital?
She was flown to Europe, and Dr. Sperling, who was a bone expert, was flown over too. And I was requested that I pick him up at the airport in Frankfurt. General Gay bought me his car. General Patton insisted you pick him up and bring him to the hospital, which was some kind of a sign, I thought, anyway. I picked him up, I drove him to the hospital. And the next day, I'm released to the press. I'm released to talk to them. Newspapers from all over the world. I give the story of the day exactly as it happened. Never saw that story printed exactly as it happened. Everybody had their own version.
You were even, I think you were even contradicted by a couple of times about that, and you were the man there, nobody else.
Okay. Well, anyway, you want to know my background? Is that what you'd like to hear?
That's right.
I grew up in Kentucky, my home. My wife also from Kentucky. We come to Brian Breezes about, we were invited here by Bob and Charles Rell for a week. We kind of got attached to the place, so ended up buying it. I believe it was 83. Then I was on Eagle.
Right.
Then I bought the place over there. I believe 85 or 6, I don't remember. But anyway,
You bought two places. You bought one and sold and moved, right?
Well, anyway, I grew up in Kentucky on dairy farm. Left home quite young. The Army government took our property there along with a lot of other people's property to build Camp Brackenridge, Kentucky. I left home and started negotiating it. I started driving a gravel truck in different parts of Kentucky. And I had a brother that was drafted in 44. I wanted to go in early. I went in early in 44, and I think went in July, I believe. I arrived in Germany in January 45, just in time to get into the cold weather, got shipped to the front. I went through chauffeur school and basic training at Fort McCall in Alabama, but they needed infantrymen then. A group of the guys that went with me were cut from the group, shipped to Far East. And fortunately, some of them didn't get back, so I'm glad to make that trip.
Now, let me help you here a minute. I happen to know something about this that you are going to slough over, I think. You were kind of an old roue even in your youth there, weren't you? You got in and out of trouble.
I was a busy kid, yes.
Well, come on, tell us about it.
Well, the book, just read the book, got enough to tell you about it. I wasn't DFC at the time of the accident, but I had been a sergeant a couple of times before that.
And busted.
Yeah.
It's hard to get this out of him, you know, really. But he would get all the pictures out of you at that time. He's a good-looking dude. You won't believe look at him now. Not me. I still look like I did at 20, but you know, you've aged.
Well, not hardly, Tom.
Have you got it there?
No, it's in the folder there. That was one of
That's the one. I'm a better one there than that, I think. But
that's when I got off the boat in New York. The press met me there, and I'd been sleeping in that coat for 2 weeks, so I wasn't looking too good there.
Mm-hmm. There's been write-ups that sort of like with President Kennedy, that there was a mystique, a mysterious undercurrent of intrigue about Patton's
Not being an accident. Well, it was declared an accident on the spot and never treated any other way. Now, back several years ago, they made a phony movie called Brass Target, which was a flop, and MGM got a hold of me to do a tour on this movie, try to get its popularity up a little bit. So I went out to Hollywood, Jerry and I, and made a deal with them to go on a promotion tour, which we did. And the author of the book, Frederick Nolan, who was an Englishman, it was a shock to him that they decided to make a movie on this book. But anyway, my first experience with TV was on the Mike Douglas show. And he's telling his story about all the events trying to kill Patton and all of the gold that they've stolen and everything. And then they asked me what I thought about this. I said, no, it was definitely an accident. I told him exactly how it happened. He stopped me right there. So let me ask you a question now. If it had not been for that train that you had stopped for, how fast would you have been going at this point? It's probably 70, 75. He says, you wouldn't be here to tell this story, would you? Which gave me a lot of thought over the years, so I don't know. Possible.
in other words, it could conceivably be
Possible, yes.
The general reason to believe that at this point has never been.
No.
Factual.
I have no way to know.
No. However, that speculation is rather.
It has been in the past, yes. But after almost 50 years, speculation kind of goes away, you know.
Yeah.
It becomes history then.
Was your opinion of the movie that they took of
George C. Scott?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, he done a great job.
You think that was fairly authentic?
As close as anyone could. Patton was an unusual man. He was a brilliant man. He was a wealthy man. A lot of people thought he was very ruthless, which in some ways he was. But General Patton had a heart bigger than he was. He really did have a feeling for his men. He loved his men to be were under. I'll have a couple of examples. One night we're coming home, going very rapid as we always went. Everywhere was a hurry. Had no time to travel. Well, anyway, the car just started slowing down. The motor idled and wasn't going anywhere. It was 10 o'clock at night. And I pulled off the road. He said, what's wrong? He got all excited, as he always did. And I said, I don't know. I'll find out. I get out of the car, and I raised the hood. I got my flashlight. Well, the accelerator spring had just fallen off, you know. So it had fell down between the manifold and the exhaust. And he said, how in the hell are you going to fix that? I said, this way. I grabbed it, hooked it back up. In doing so, I kind of fried my hand on both sides, you know. And he liked to cuss, so he called me every humanly possible thing. Not one kind word that doesn't burn. He just called me everything in the world. Now get in that damn car and let's go. So we went on home, burning badly, and he didn't say a word about it. Do this or do that. I go in the house, I'm looking for something to just fix it with. There hasn't been 10 minutes by a knock on the door. It was a burnt colonel, head of the hospital there in the area. You'd ordered him over immediately to fix my hand.
Hard-hearted guy, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was. I really, he was my idol. I never had a lot of unkind words from him, but none of them were reality.
He didn't mean him the way that you know.
No, when another general got in the car, he'd always say, "Sit tight, you think he's going to kill you, but he's really not."
You like to travel fast and
That's right. And because everyone's had to work. The first week I was with him, it was kind of.
Now, how do you pick you?
He didn't pick me, really. I picked him, actually. I was driving for General Giraud. And I got that job when I come out of the hospital with the frozen feet, and I got that job. Well, that was a very good job because he was a nice guy, 3-star. Everything was strictly military, right down to the letter. And we kept seeing Patton everywhere. We see Ike. General Giraud was a very close friend of General Ike's, which I got to drive that gentleman a few times, which to me was quite a pleasure. He was a real gentleman. And
you didn't really fit in that picture, did you?
No. But on weekends Giraud would go to Ike's place in Hamburg, Germany, and I'd go out and sit beside him and fish. He was just a plain ordinary guy, he really was. And anyway, General Giraud come to me one day and said, "Woodring, I'm being transferred out. There's 2 jobs available. The new commander, or you can go as backup driver on General Ike's staff. He kind of likes you. You got the job if you want it." I said, "Who's the new commander?" He said, "Well, that's a secret, military secret, but I can tell you, but you better keep your mouth shut." I said, "All right." It says General Patton. I said, "I want the job." And he says, "You're crazy." I said, "I know it, but I want the job." He was my idol.
That's the way that.
General Patton was a millionaire. Everybody, I think, knew that. His army, they all went to charity. All the time he was in the service. Oh, yeah. His father was a land baron in California. His grandfather had been a general, but not his father. Now, his wife was the heir family of Boston, which was the wealthiest industrialist family in Boston. So, there's no need for money.
Yeah.
He won gold medals in the Olympics in 1912. He was the world's greatest marksman. Those pistols he wore were deadly weapons. He could shoot from anywhere. And he was also considered the world's greatest polo player at one time. He had his polo ponies that took from coast to coast with him. And as I might have said, he cussed every breath. So I was on a TV show in Boston, and his daughter showed up for the show. Very much like him. Her husband had been a general and took the military family. And on this show, the narrator said to her, says, "I understand your father cussed an awful lot. How did he handle this at the breakfast table?" "Oh, he cussed in Latin." So, he had a lot of tricks.
Yeah. I don't know if there are any people out there who want to ask a question of Woody. We're getting close to the end of our program. You're welcome to call in if you care to. The number you see is on the screen. And Woody's got a lot of other things to get out of this, but I can't see that I can't do it now yet. Maybe we'll get another one of these times and we'll open up a little more.
Woody, how long did you drive for the general before the accident?
It was only 4 months, but it was day and night.
Okay, so that's the first program. The second program we have is a 26-minute program if everybody's still interested. Okay, and there's a little bit of repetition, but it's sort of fresh. It's a reunion of the 106th Infantry Division that fought and had such a hard time in the Ardennes in the Battle of the Bulge. which Dad was also in the Battle of the Bulge, but that's where he got his feet frozen. But I could never get him to talk about that. I asked him about it, and he just did not want to talk about that because it was evidently a very traumatic experience for all of those men. But the 100, excuse me, the 106th had been there longer than him. So let's see here. We had this program here to play through the computer and the projector, but it turns out the volume's not enough for the room. So I'm going to take this DVD back to the beginning, and that will play that program. Okay, so bear with me just a moment. Were there any questions? He was very popular. In fact, when he died, I had some newspaper reporters contact me and say how much they were going to miss him because they like to call and interview him. I wish I could find the fellow from the Oakland Press. He wrote some great stories about that. There's a lot of false stories about the accident and about events surrounding the accident. Because as he said, no one ever printed that story. So evidently fake news is not something really new. Because they absolutely did not. I was reading some of them online just this week, and they said it was a head-on collision on the Autobahn, making it sound like they were going 90 miles an hour, and there were two trucks when there really, it was nothing like that. And everyone that came up afterward had their own version of the story too. But because so many journalists and authors have interviewed Dad, it ended up that mostly what's out there now is the real truth. There were many who wanted to make conspiracy stories that it was some kind of secret assassination and so forth. But I don't see how, he said he couldn't see how that could have happened because they only decided to go hunting that morning. So no one would have known. Those men in the truck could have been the only ones. The truck coming from the other direction. They were three drunks. He said they could still smell alcohol on them. And so there was like no reason even to turn there. It was a gated lane, evidently. So would never expect them to turn right into the vehicle like that.
I have to tell you, I met your father in 1989 at Horace Lynn's party. Pi Heron was there, Sam McElroy, and he was sitting in the corner by himself. So I walked over to sit down, he shook my hand, and so we started talking, and we introduced ourselves. He says, I am Horace Woodring. Still didn't ring the bell. He didn't say Woody. And he handed me a card, and Bruce, he was selling snowmobiles from Michigan at the party. He was wanting to sell me a snowmobile. I said, we don't have that much snow. And I
because he wanted some new, faster ones.
Yeah, and so I drove my 1939 Packard limousine down there. It was parked out front in a circle, and he said, is that your car? And I said, yes, it is. He said, well, when I was young, I drove a 39 Cadillac limousine. That's all the man ever said. He never told me who he was. We had a nice conversation. We connected the dot that he knew Bruce, and I said, well, I have a Mercedes I bought from Bruce, and we talked about that. And he did tell me before he got quiet, he said, well, I used to sell Lincoln Mercuries in Hopkinsville. That's all I got out of it. But I still have his business card from Michigan.
He had so many friends. Everyone he met mostly became a friend. And when we had his funeral, we had two funerals. One in Michigan and one in Kentucky. We brought him, he's buried here at White Oak Cemetery in Clay. But we were overwhelmed by the crowd at the cemetery, or at the funeral there in Michigan. The room was overflowed. It was a big room, at least twice as big as this room. And there were people there there were bartenders, waitresses, the manager of the Detroit Lions, the team doctor for the Detroit Lions. I mean, there was just all kinds of various, individuals from the car business.
But he was very humble.
He was a terrific man. He was a terrific father. Never hit me my whole life long. Taught me lessons in other ways, and was a wonderful, wonderful father and a wonderful man, really. And I thought these stories were so dramatic that there was, when I was younger, I used to think, well, he must be lying here, you know, there's a little bit of BS going on, but really, individuals over the years have confirmed these stories. He really wasn't a liar. He told the truth. This was the truth. So let's go to this one. I thought I had it queued up, but I had it queued up over there.
Randy, as a veteran of 15 years or more with the military,
Back in the war, and my day-to-day experience was something special with this man. He was so different than anybody else in the Army. Got to meet all the generals. I got to meet General Lloyd, right on down the line. But Patton is my favorite because I think it was smarter all of them together, really. And we could talk about my day-to-day experiences with him. But first, I want to recognize a group of friends of mine that are here, and then my daughter, my son, my grandson, my son-in-law. They're all here today. And now, anytime anybody wants to interrupt me and ask a question, I'll answer it right or wrong. But you probably want to know where I come from. I come from West Kentucky. I was born on a dairy farm with 3 older brothers. So you know how I was ducking and dodging when I was a kid. So I got going early in life. I got on the road before 15. Become a gravel truck driver in West Kentucky. And that was quite an experience with all these older guys that rather drink than do anything else. Learned a lot from them, really. But then all at once, I come to work one morning and my boss says, Woody, when you come to work Monday morning, bring your birth certificate and you got to be 18. I says, well, I got a birth certificate, but I'm not 18. Well, he was shocked. I've been working for him 2.5 years, driving a truck. But couldn't work for him anymore. He shipped me to Arkansas. I stayed there a week. And my brother's getting to go into service. He was getting drafted. So I go home and join the Army. We went the same day. He went Navy and I went Army. There, I ended up Fort McCall, Alabama. I went to the basic training there. I went to the driver's school there. And then I ended up about 2 months behind you guys before I got there. But I got there. How I got to be a drummer's driver, that was quite a different story. I got my feet froze. Well, I couldn't walk anymore, so I was sent to the hospital. There I recovered in 2 or 3 weeks. And I got out of there, they shipped me all over the war ended. And then they were forming the 15th Army, which is the Army formed to write the history of the war. The commanding officer was Lieutenant General Lynde. I reported it to the company clerk, and it says, Private Woodring reporting in. And then I heard the captain yell out at him, the gentleman needed a driver. All the NCOs were fighting for this job because it was a great job. The captain says, I want to see his lowest ranking son of a bitch in the outfit right now. Company clerk said, well, his name's Woodring, he's standing right here. So I go in, looked him up and down, says, that's the best uniform you got? I said, no, I got nothing like it. He said, you report to Captain Thames, aide de camp, right now, get out of here. So I got to the company clerk and I said, what in the hell is an aide de camp? I said, well, you dummy, you're being interviewed to drive the general. General, I'd never seen one face to face, you know, I'm scared to death. Anyway, the Jeep picked me
Yeah, told me over headquarters, I'm going to report in, talked to him a little while, and told him my experience as a driver. He sent me in to see the general, and man, I'm scared to death. Sitting back, smoking a cigarette, and 3 stars shining at me, and he said, son, can you drive? What can you drive? I said, I can drive anything. You can. We talked a little bit, he said, you got the job. Well, it was a great job. He was jumping all the way through. Everything was GIs, everything, you know. Wasn't what I wanted, but it's what he wanted. So he made me a sergeant one day. Kept that week too. And then one day he come to me and he says, Woodring, I'm going home. There's a new commander coming in, and there's 2 jobs open. Well, Lieutenant John Eisenhower was on his staff, and we went every weekend over to General Ike's headquarters, so I got to know General Ike real well. And he said, would you like to be on his staff, or you can drive me a commander? I said, who's the new commander? He said, I don't think you want that job. It's General Patton. That's the job I've been looking for. That's the job I want, you know. And I got the job, so I got to thinking, Lord, what did I enter here? And I heard all these war stories about him. He had to go wide open everywhere, and everything had to be precise, and I said, hell, I can do it. Why am I worried about it? So I was picking him up this particular day, and I'm sitting in the car, in his car, and he's got these big air horns out here, and lever, and everything, and all at once, Willie went out the front door of the office building, hotel they were in, and I knew the general would be right behind him. So,
Willie, can you hear in the back? That dog from the movie Patton? Okay. But one thing about the movie Patton that Dad didn't like is that a French poodle made Willie shudder. Do you remember the movie?
Yeah.
He said that dog was really tough, that those dogs were bred for fighting. And I did have a picture of my dad in the mirror with the dog sitting beside him on the bed, and he's taking a picture of the 2 of them in the mirror. I can't find that picture. Anyway, his face is half cut off, but you can see it's him and that famous dog. But anyway, so that's what he's saying, that Willie comes running out, and then...
the accident, I grabbed the air horn lever accident, and blew the horn and shut the building. Out comes the general, he gets in the car. I take off, running rubber, just going to be held for nothing there. He's ignoring me. This went on for 4 or 5 days. We went to Frankfurt and back and all over. One day I ran along at 90 miles an hour, well, wide open, where the Cadillac would run. Come over a hill and a big German Shepherd tried to run out in front of me. I just never batted an eye to run over the top of that dog. The general said, you ruthless son of a bitch. And then they laughed. You couldn't believe that I could run over a fine German Shepherd like that and not bat an eye. I said, would you rather I want that did, sir? No, keep going. So from then on, apparently I could do no wrong. Anything I'd done, he cheered, and there was a lot of wild things. Every time we went somewhere, there was something different. We headed to Frankfurt early in this deal, and I think we had General Gay in the car, and Colonel Smith, and Frankfurt it was a blown-out city, as you know, that's where Ike's headquarters was. And they had a boulevard, trolley track was right down the middle of this boulevard. And I come up behind 2 convoys, street totally blocked for about half a mile. I can't go down the sidewalk because buildings are blown out. I look over here and there's a bomb crater in the trolley track. The fence was down. I looked down, I couldn't see anything else down the trolley track, so I just shifted here and rode on the trolley track. There we went. Blowing the air horns to the guy at the end that let us through. Patton was sitting back there shaking like hell and mad, like hell. He couldn't understand why. I just didn't wait. He didn't want to ever wait. And he never wanted to waste time traveling. He knew where we went, wanted us there now. Trying to get us there now. And then, anybody got any questions? All right. Well, I think one of the incidents we were headed for Belgium for a decoration that they would give them the medals, you know, and everything. And we get to the Belgian border, there's a major MP and his staff is there and all the bikes, and the Major said to the general, we got bikes for escort you in for this declaration, so line them up. So 6 bikes, RAs and MPs. We take off 45 miles an hour. And the general said, go get that, somebody's just going. So I waved like that. His speed up to about 60. He said, get that son of a bitch out of the way. So look at the air horns again, waved him over and went on. But that's just the way he wanted to do things. One morning I'm driving to work. I had Colonel Morris Smith's aide coming down the hill. So the German car coming up the hill looked off or something come right at me. So I ducked over and bumped the post in front of the store. And I stopped. And this guy made a mistake. He stopped. Convertible German car, and Patton bails out of the car, and he goes over and rips the door open and grabs this guy and he yanks him out and says, shoot this son of a bitch. I grabbed my 45 and said, no, no, shoot. I was a little guy and only had 1 arm. So he slid the colonel said, lock this crowd and throw the key away. So take me to the office, come back to the colonel. So I go on the office, come back after that night. I'm driving the general to Frankfurt. He was leaving on this trip where he was invited by the King of Denmark and the Prime Minister of Sweden, which he defeated the Olympics in 1912 in fencing. And then I was going to fly with plane crew the next day because staff got to go with him. And anyway, we were headed for Frankfurt, and he had a big drink out of his head in the Harper bottle. He said, Woodring, when you get back tonight, you turn that crowd loose. I'll probably shot that arm off myself. Every day. One time we headed for Frankfurt. We're driving the Free Park there. That is between, I don't know, Madisonville and Frankfurt. And I'm blowing and going, and here comes an old army weapons carrier. MPs, and they just blew up and cut me off. Stop. This big head says, Sergeant jumped down and said, where the hell do you think you're going? Speak through it like that. The general sneaked out of the car on the right side. And when he's riding across, he's fixing to give somebody help, you know. Come around the back of the car and Sergeant jumped to attention. He said, that age, Private, get this man's serial number. And I don't know who his commanding officer is, but we're going to reduce him too. So the guy got all done. I wrote his name out. You can go, Private. There's never a day at General Day for General Patton, believe me. One time we were going somewhere, I don't know, we was flying along the railroad crossing. The Germans used to put these railroad cars down. And they had a habit of doing it early when you're an American. If you were there, you know what I'm talking about. They put it down, wouldn't even turn in sight. So I screamed up there and Patton bailed out of the car and heads up the guy was in this dome with a stairway to. He's halfway up the stairs before the guy opened it. You better open that and blow your butt off. He didn't. So he got back in the car. Oh, he was unreal. He really was. One time when we were going to Frankfurt, and I got General Levin Allen, who was a frequent visitor of Patton's. He was his 2-star general. He's riding with us. Patton says, now, Lev said, the man was scared to death. He won't hurt you, but he'll scare you to death. Says, okay, so away we go. Early in the morning, and we're coming down this street, you're flying low. There's a half turn there, street. And that half turn, just before you get to it, and after it, is the wood cobstone. You know, on a frosty morning, it's like an ice rink. So I look up and I said, oh my God, there's no way I can make this corner. I'm turning over. So I turned right, there was a big building there with a statue in it. What it was, I don't know. I spun around that statue, shifted the gears, went on up the street. I look back and I don't see General Allen. Patton's heat test is dying. He's helping me out on the floor. So I told you, serious death. So just something every day. There's another day. We're coming back from Skirmish this weekend, and I thought he blew my head off. Well, I did. How far I dropped right behind your head, not expected. Killed the deer, of course. Then I had to stop, come back, drag that big old deer and put him in the back of the car and took him home. I mean, things Patton done, no one else ever done in the Army, believe me. You hear all the stories about Patton and Ike. Believe it or not, they were very close friends, even though Ike had to chew him out now and then. But they were way back. They were never enemies at any time. And, well, I got any questions?
We're just enjoying it. These guys had dinner parties and had shot all the people up, shot out at Fort Joe. Did you ever get any of it?
Well, I stole a bunch of it, yes.
I read a story in Soldier of Fortune where you were driving and I guess the limousine died or something. You were here.
Yeah. Yeah, we're coming home one night and it's getting late and I wanted to get home. I had a date. And the general was in a hurry. It's after dark, like 9 or 10 o'clock. And the Cadillac just all at once starts slowing down, no acceleration. Engine's idling. I pull over the side of the road. I get out of the car. Raise it up. What's wrong? I don't know, sir. I want to find out if I can. So I got out, raised the accelerator spring and just fallen off. And he said, how the hell are you going to fix that? I said, I'll show you. And I reached down and I grabbed it, hooked it up. In the meantime, I pumped the back of my hand, this part of my hand, pretty bad. He said, you've done that. He cussed at me for 30 minutes, telling me how dumb and stupid I was. But I said, let's go. He never mentioned one time because it hurt or nothing. We get home, I go in the house looking for something to put on it. In about 15 minutes, knock on the door. Here's a bird colonel with his satchel. I want to see that damn hand. Damn general sitting down here. And I couldn't send him. You want me to come? Let's see it. So I said, there it is. So he fixed it. That's the way it was.
What happened to the date?
Now that is my private story. Anyway, there was another story. Coming home one night, and the old Cadillac started knocking. God knocking. And I said, oh my God, I'm not going to make it home. I finally got there. It was really hammering the time I got there. And he said, just get an ordinance something tonight. I said, yes, sir. So I called up the ordinance officer. I said, Major, this General Patton's driver, and we blown an engine, and we had an engine put in tonight. He laughed. He said, you got to be kidding. I said, well, I'll just let the general call you up and see if he's kidding. So the Latin car, the M5 tank had the same engine that Cadillac had, so no problem there. So the next morning, the car, about 6 o'clock in the morning, the car turned driving up another motor in. But went out overnight. No one questioned Patton and his decisions. Anywhere we're at, I don't care what general was there, he got all the attention from all the reporters and everybody. Now you're probably wondering what happened in this accident. Well, Sunday morning I woke up at his order, Sergeant Meeks. He said, get ready, the generals are going hunting. But I knew he was leaving that afternoon to come home. It was his last day in Germany. He was going to England and fly home. So I got all ready to go, and Sergeant Spruce come over and said, you ready to go hunting advisor? And he had a hunting dog. So we hit it out. We were going to an area between Heidelberg and Mannheim. So on the way, General wanted to check this castle out. He heard about it, and he wanted to see it. It was back up off the road of Madisonville and on like, and snow on the ground and everything up there. He got out and he was looking at the castle in the general gate. So then we get back to the car. He got in the front seat with me because his boots were wet and the heater was up there. So we drive down to the entrance to Mannheim off the Autobahn, and Sergeant Spruce is waiting for us. He said, General, the dogs are about to freeze. It was a real cold day. The sun was shining, but it was cold. So we put the dog in the car with us. And there, the general got in the back seat, got out of the front seat with me. And then about 2 miles up the road was a railroad crossing. A Sergeant Spruce in front of us, he got by the train, but I had to stop for him. There was no one behind me, no one, Sunday morning. So when a train passes, I take off. There's a truck sitting up the road about a quarter, half a mile at most. And I start off, and the truck goes out the same time I do. And at this entrance to this big building, the truck just decides to turn in and turn around. But he ignored the fact that I was there, and he plowed right into the right front beach fire. And the general come up and caught his head on the windowsill between the front and the back seat. Caught him right here, took all the skin back. And the movie Last Days of Patton, they showed he got hit here, he got hit here. And snapped his neck and spinal cord. Believe it or not, he was never unconscious until shortly before he died. Well, the first vehicle, there wasn't anyone behind us at all. I know there's stories in the books that this Lieutenant Baptist was following me and everything, but he was never even there. But the first vehicle along was an Army ambulance, which by accident just happened to be passing by. And I said, and then of course other people arrived. I said, the generals are pretty bad. Because when I first looked behind me, I didn't see blood, but I could see the straw. We get out of the car and open the door and all the blood. And General Gage pinned under him, so I had to lift him on General Patton up so General Gage could get out from under him. And then some big captain tried to arrest me, and while he's trying to I'm trying to direct traffic, and this guy's trying to put the light on me and put me in jail because I was at an accident. Well, General Gage saw what was happening, comes out, really tears this guy up. I mean, really easy up. Says, you get back to your office and you're under arrest. Send some junior officer out because you cannot be here. But I was never questioned on the accident. And then they took him on to the hospital. I went back to Sergeant Spruce back and no one lived. The following day, General Gage called me and asked me if I would meet with the press. They wanted to meet with me. And I had press from all over the world there, all gathered, And I told a story of exactly what happened from top to bottom. None of them printed that story, not one newspaper printed the story I get. If anybody read that letter, it was in there. I got a letter from, I was on a TV show, and I was on my daughter's show, and General Gage happened to be watching. And this guy was talking about all the incidents and all the times he'd been attempted on his life and all of that. This accident could not have been an accident. When I get on, I told him exactly what happened that day, and it was an accident. So he writes me a letter congratulating me for sticking to the truth, which I did. I always have. Now, is there any questions?
Sure.
Yeah.
Did you ever, Lieutenant, your son Cotton? His age?
No, I never met him. Colonel Ross mentioned his age when
Did you ever meet General Eisenhower's driver?
yes. Not the lady, because I don't think you ever had. I don't know what the deal is there. The guy driving around with that name was Master Sergeant.
Oh, it was the girl.
Maybe. And all the stories about General Patton, like the pictures there at his birthday party that I took from straight from myself. In the movie show, he had a girlfriend there. But if you ever had a girlfriend, I never saw her. Never saw anybody come or go from the house. So I don't get those stories. They just come in the movie, I guess.
Hey, Woodring.
Yes, that's it. Okay. So, let's see, I don't want to leave anything out here. So they talked about those air horns, and I guess they were really big air horns. And Dad had them. In fact, Bruce just showed me a picture of, did you want to talk about that?
Yeah, that's what I want to tell about.
Okay.
I'm the only one left.
Okay. Well, I'll just leave that one off then. Oh, I wanted to tell you about General Hobart Gay. This was his adjutant general, or whatever you call it, and he was in the car when the accident happened, and he, as you said, as Dad said, he got a letter from General Gay, and it was in old man scratchy old handwriting, and it was a good for you, Woodring. You told the truth about the story, about what really happened. And so in some of the more recent books, they really tell Dad's version of what happened there instead of this phony baloney stories that were out there. In fact, what's his name?
Bill
O'Reilly. Bill O'Reilly wrote a book, Killing Patton, and there's quite a big section in there that follows along Dad's story real close.
That's your gift.
What?
The book is your gift.
Oh, it is. That's for me?
Yes.
And I see that it's wrapped up in funny papers.
Yes.
Is there a...
That is your copy of Killing Patton.
What am I to take from this wrapping paper?
We're cheap.
It's Beetle Bailey! It's Beetle Bailey! Oh, that's great. Okay, so another thing I had, which I can't find anything now, it seems like. Dad had a 4-star flag from this car, and he had the air horns from this car. And the 4-star flag was stolen out of his car toward the last part of Dad's life, back in the early 2000s. So that's too bad. But one of the pictures we had was a picture of General Patton kind of turned oblique like that, and he was peeing in the Rhine River because I guess that there was some discussion as to whether he was going to make it all the way to Berlin, and he said, well, I'll be peeing in the Rhine River by April or May or whatever it was. And so they had to commemorate that event with a photograph. So anyway, are there any questions? Anyone have questions about? Yes, sir.
What happened to the men in the truck that hit them?
Nothing happened. Patton made sure that nothing happened to any of them. As a matter of fact, the next, when Patton's wife, Beatrice, was flown over to Germany, Patton asked General Gay to have Dad pick her up in General Gay's car and bring her to the hospital. So Patton was extremely, really loved his men. Wouldn't be, he could have been buried anywhere. He was a blue blood. He had mega money. I mean, somebody that flies their polo ponies with them, has got plenty of money. And anyway, his grave is just the same grave that all the other men have there in Luxembourg. He's buried with about 5,000 some hundred of his other men there with the same marker as them. And I think that the connection between my dad and General Patton was kind of a personality thing. Here you had this blue blood from California that had every convenience in life, and this big military background, but this wild personality. And then you have this young boy from Western Kentucky, from driving a gravel truck and raised on a dairy farm, and the two of them somehow had a personality that matched. In one of these accounts, it was funny, Patton carried a bottle of liquor in the back seat, and he offered Dad some one time. And so Dad took it, and he gulp, 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 gulp. He said, and then he gave me a lecture for a half hour on the dangers of drinking. So I think Patton was, he was leading boys, really. We're talking 19-year-old, 20-year-old boys. And here was a boy that had run away from home, run away from school.
Raced cars.
Raced cars, oh my goodness. Yeah. Bruce could tell us about that probably better than I could. But my husband Paul, his father was a fellow named Booger Lloyd from Providence, and he and my dad Woody used to race each other. In fact, Dad raced on the beach in Daytona. The reason there's a speedway there, in case anybody didn't know this, was that beach is such a nice flat beach that it's a good straightaway, and so it's good for drag. It's a good drag strip. So that's how the speedway came to be in Daytona, because of that. And so he I don't know. Are y'all ready to go? I know it's a little over time, but I have another story or two if you want to hear it.
Sure.
Okay, so my mother was gorgeous. She was a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful woman. Her sister's sitting right back here. Looks just like her. And anyway, so he was always very proud of that. Because my dad liked beautiful women and fast cars, and his car was always going to be red. Anyway, so he sees this young woman riding through town with this old man with a flowing white beard, and she's riding through town in Sturgis, and he says to his buddy, "Who is that?" And the buddy said, "You better watch out. That old man will shoot you. You better be careful with her." So he found out that she worked at the soda fountain there in Sturgis. So he goes into the soda fountain. He asked her how she would like to ride in an airplane. How would she like to have a ride in an airplane? She said, "Sure, yeah." So they get up, and he's got this stunt plane at the Sturgis airport. So he takes her up in the stunt plane, and of course they fly right over their family farm. And there's Judy down there in the yard, who's sitting back here, and her mom and her little brother Bobby are out in the yard. Mom's hanging up the laundry, and they're all waving up to the plane, and they're waving down, but little do they know their daughter's in there. So he flew that stunt plane for a while, and then he had an Indian motorcycle and did all this different kind of racing until he broke his neck, which you probably remember a bit. This is his cousin, too, Miss Janet Logan. Anyway, he was a wild child, but a very, very good man, very nice man. And everybody that met him remembered him. So if there are no more questions,
Does anyone in the Patton family know that your brother's middle name is Patton?
I would assume so. I mean, they're kind of out of my class, you know, so I haven't really had much contact.
Did your father name his middle name after Patton?
Well, sure. Yeah, John Patton Woodring. Yeah. So my cousin Bruce here had a couple of things he wanted to share.
Real quick.
Okay. Thank you so much for this book, and thank you for the opportunity. It's been really, I was kind of scared to do it and didn't think I would be able to, but Dad helped me through it, didn't he? It's my cousin Bruce Woodring from Henderson.
Yeah, if I don't tell them about the air horns, well, I'm the only one left.
I know. You guys tell me some stories.
In fact, you're talking about Woody been born on the farm, there, a dairy farm, in 26. I was born there on the same farm in 36, 10 year older than Woody. When Woody came home from World War II, my dad was getting out at the same time. He started a car business there in Morganville, and Woody lived with us. He lived in the same roof, same house as us.
Your poor mom.
Have any way before your mother? Have any of you been to the museum in Fort Knox?
Yes.
Yes.
Did you see the air horns on the car?
Yeah.
No, there's no air horns on
No air horns there.
When Woody got home, he opened up his duffel bag and he had them damn air horns in his duffel bag. They were side by side, one about this long and the other maybe 6 inches longer. And so he had them in his car a couple times. He let Ray Tucker, a little guy working in the body shop, put them on his old car. I've had them in my hand, actually, and they were loud. Well, when he heard that they were gonna open up the museum, Patton Museum, the first one, why, he told Ray, he said, take those air horns off, and he said, I'm gonna take them in and donate them to the museum. Ray lived in an upstairs apartment over top of Ford tractor place there in Morganfield. And he took the horns off and took them into his apartment. And that Ford tractor dealership burnt to the ground that night. And the horns burned up, so that's why there's no air horns. But I was just 10 years old, so there's not gonna be anybody else know that. We don't record it now. What happened to horns? But you had an exaggerate on your daddy, wild and crazy.
So was your daddy.
When they years later, when my dad bought the Lincoln Mercury dealership in Henderson, Woody and Dad would meet at the edge of Morganville every morning and race all the way to Henderson. I never forget, I was home on leave one time, and a guy caught, a kid was hitchhiking there in the garden. And I got back, he got in the car, I took off, and I guess I was running pretty fast. He said, what's your name? And I told him my name. He said, golly, so if I known you was a Woodring, I'd never got in his car. But have I got 2 more minutes?
Sure, I know.
Yeah, sure.
Steve's
The kids.
All the time you want.
All right, well, here. She mentioned a little bit about his teeth, his strong teeth.
Yes, sir.
He told me, the Army told him they never had a set of teeth like that. I'm gonna tell you something he'd done with his teeth, and I saw it. If you told me, I'd call you a damn liar. But he'd take a guy like me and wrap his belt back here with his handkerchief and squat down and pick a 200-pound man up and hold him over his head with his teeth. I saw him try it one time. It didn't work. The man's belt broke. He dropped the guy. But I've seen him do this twice. Once in Owensboro at the bar, in the basement there at the hotel in Owensboro. And the other place I think was in Evansville. I can't remember, but I saw him do this twice. And this is the truth. You know how square table at a bar, just black porcelain top, real hard like plastic, and chrome legs. After he's had a few beers and everybody teased him, talking about what they heard about him doing his teeth. I've seen him take that table and fill it full of bottles and beer, whatever you want to put on it. And on 3 corners, he'd put 3 mugs of beer level full. On the 4th corner, he would squat down and put that corner in his mouth of that table with that chrome leg riding right up on his chest, and stand up and take 1 or 2 real slow steps and set that table back down and never spill a drop those 3 corners. Now that's pretty damn hard to believe.
My mother said she saw him do it.
Do what?
My mother said she saw him do it too.
I saw him do it twice. In fact, he told me one time he got at the wooden table and he left all the teeth prints in the wood. But
He'd take one of those round, even when he was an older man, he'd take one of those round toothpicks and he'd bite down on it and it would shoot across the room.
you always see him take 2 bottles of beer and cap them both at the same time.
That's pretty good milk down there in Union County, I guess.
And they say milk's no good for you.
Yeah. But he thought the only way to drive a car was wide open, and but he was unique. He really was. He was a good guy. But I thought maybe we need to know what happened to them air horns. In fact, Janet came with a picture for me. There's a picture over here of the guy taking the horns off the car. I got a picture of him taking the air horns off the Cadillac.
Well, it was in a junkyard at the time. Nobody knew it was going to be restored and put in a museum or anything. But that very car, in fact, one of the people that interviewed Dad a lot was Denver Fugate, the historian from the Patton Museum. And I was looking at a letter he had sent to us after Dad passed away about what a good friend he came to be. And I would like to, if that Denver Fugate's still alive, I would really like to meet him and go back. The museum's been under construction.
It's open now.
It's open again?
I was just up there.
Well, I'd like to go and
He
see.
told me
They still
that
have the car, I guess. Yeah.
Patton loved the mirror horns. He said, I come up behind a slow-moving convoy. He said, let's pull the mirror horns wide open. So the convoy would just freeze. He ought to pull out and drive 35 miles an hour across all the Germans' front yards and just pass the whole convoy. That's what I wanted to say. Okay.
When I lived in Henderson, his daughter Stephanie had the prettiest blue eyes, and there was another girl named Vicky Rideout. I always prayed we'd have a Baptist church funeral so I could see them.
Only you would pray for a funeral. Oh, okay, well, if there's no further questions, guess we're done.
Let people know.